the let's see general the tayo la chale sasma de bari ko tika ti chane soမျိုးလေးပေါ့နော်ကျွန်တော်မိကုန်းနေမိတဲ့ချင်းညာနဲ့ကျွန်တော်စုစည်းပြီးတော့ပြန်ပြီးတော့မိသွားမှာဖြစ်ပါတယ်အဓိကတော့ဒီနေ့ session ကကျွန်တော်အင်္ဂလိပ်လိုဖြစ်ပါလိမ့်မယ်ဆိုတော့speaker ကိုလည်းကျွန်တော်လည်း request လုပ်ထားပါတယ်ပေါ့နော်ကျွန်တော်ပုံမှန် average ပုံစံလေးနဲ့ပြောပေးဖို့ပေါ့နော် session တစ်ခုလုံးတော့အင်္ဂလိပ်ဖြစ်ပါလိမ့်မယ်မိကုန်းနေမိကန်လည်းအမျိုးပေါ့နော် sasma တွေကမိကန်လည်းကျွန်တော်အနေနဲ့ပြန်မေးပေးရမျိုးဒါမှမဟုတ်ကိုယ်တိုင်တိုက်ရိုက်မေးချင်လည်းရပါတယ်တိုက်ရိုက်မေးပြီးတော့လည်းကျွန်တော်ချက်စီပေါ့နော်ဒါတိုက်ရိုက်ကိုပြန်ပြီးတော့ဖြည့်ဆိုပေးပါလိမ့်မယ် So Mr. Bing အခုပေါ့နော်ကျွန်တော်စိတ်ဒီ Mr. Bing ကတော့အဓိကတော့သူကဒီနိုင်ငံတကာတွေ့ကြုံရှိတယ်ပြီးရင်လက်ရှိလည်းသူကမြန်မာနိုင်ငံမှာလည်းဒီ corporate ဘိုင်းတွေအတွက်ကိုလုပ်နေရပေါ့နော်ဒီ SME ဘိုင်းတွေကိုလည်းသူအနေနဲ့အများအရင်ကစိတ်သက်စိတ်ဆန္ဒရှိတာပေါ့နော်အဲ့ခါကျတော့
All right, thank you so much, Koyan. I'll just go ahead and share my screen. So, as Koyan and the door have introduced me, not much more to say about myself. My name is Benjamin Finn. Please call me Ben. I am the co-founder and managing director of Mobius Consulting. I have about 10 years of project management experience around the world. And Mobius Consulting is very excited to be in Myanmar. We're looking forward to working with SMEs in country to improve business practices, to improve processes, research, everything. But enough about us. If you'd like to know more, you can message us later. So I'm sure instead you'd like to hear about project management. So the webinar discussion today is project management and common mistakes that are made in projects. Before we get into it, I'd like to establish some very, very important ground rules. If you have a question, at any time I want you to interrupt me. I don't care when it is, if I'm in the middle of a slide, I would like to know any questions that you have. Feel free to message on Facebook, feel free to message in our Zoom chat, or just speak up. I'd like this to be as interactive as possible. And if you don't understand something, a lot of times other people don't understand as well. So with that, I'm very excited to start. Project management. Now, before we get into it, I'd like to ask the group, what is a project? Does anyone know the definition? Don't be shy. Well, okay. So since you're being shy, I'll just go ahead and say, a project is very simply a set of activities that are time boxed. They have a specific beginning and a specific end date. They produce a unique deliverable at the end of the project. They are a unique set of activities, and often they have a unique team that has been put together specifically for that project. A project is separate from something like operations, because operations are day-to-day activities during which you focus on completing basically the same tasks over and over again. The best day in operations is a day that nothing really important happened. You have a repeat of yesterday, and anything that did happen, you had a procedure to handle it. Whereas the best day in operations is where you move forward on something unique, something you've never done before, and completed some great things. Personally, my passion is around projects. They can be quite chaotic, which is why you need project management. So project management is actually the set of tools, activities, techniques, and procedures that allow a project manager to manage the initiation, the build-up, the monitoring, the execution, and the closure of a particular project. Now, often it is focused around 8 to many more different areas. The most common areas are on the slide that you can see in front of you. A project manager has to know how to manage communication between the team, outside of the team. They have to know how to manage the scope, the risk, the team itself, human resources, the quality, the procurement, making contracts, negotiations. These are a lot of high-level, complex activities, and the project manager is expected to be an expert in all of them. So I know some of you are thinking, well, I've been in a project before. We don't really need a project manager. You know, we manage on our own fine. Well, I have to say, as great as I'm sure that project went, I've never heard a story, seen a white paper, or experienced a project going as well as it could without a project manager as it could with a project manager. In general, even if your team is great, there's a lot that they're missing because they don't have that one person overarching it all, looking at the holistic or the complete version of the project. So I always recommend a project have a project manager for many different benefits. So a good project manager on a project will actually increase the customer satisfaction. They'll be able to talk to the customer, relate to them, explain to them, make sure that regular communication is going out to them. And these activities that the members of the team don't have time to focus on because they're too busy doing all the critical work, increase the quality of the project from the customer's point of view. Additionally, many times a team member is so focused on their own area, which is a very important area, that they can't see the complete view. So the project manager needs to know how to see that, and then they can improve the risk management, and they can put mitigation techniques into place so that if a risk does hit, you can be saved from it hitting too hard. By managing it clearly, making sure the deliverables are delivered on time, they are able to reduce the cost. By making sure the resources are being used to their full extent, they can reduce the time. These are really important things. Ask any manager. And if you tell them, I can give you a reduction in cost and time, they'll say, please. They improve the chances of success in the project. They control the scope. A lot of times a project team wants to do something really cool, and that's great. I love innovation, but not all innovation is needed for a project. And the project manager has to be the villain sometimes and say, no, you can't do that because that's not needed for this phase. That is not a good use of your time. I need you to focus on other things. Finally, they significantly improve communication, not just with the customer and other stakeholders, but also with the team itself. A lot of times a designer won't really understand the same language as a developer. So the project manager needs to be there to make sure everything's communicated clearly to the entire team. Before I move on, does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay.
So ဆရာစမတို့မေးခွန်းတွေများရှိသေးလားမသိဘူးเนาะ Hello Hello
Yes.
Okay ဒါဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ပေါ့နော်အခုဒီပထမဒီဟာလေးကိုဒီတစ်ပိုင်းကိုအဆင်ပြေကြရလားမသိဘူးเนาะ ဟုတ်ဒါဆိုရင်ပေါ့နော်အခုကျွန်တော်တို့ကဒီနေ့ကကျွန်တော်တို့18ယောက်ဆိုစစ်စပေါင်းဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ပေါ့နော်ဒါ14ယောက်ရှိမယ်14ယောက်ရှိမယ်ဆိုတော့အခုကျွန်တော်တို့နည်းနည်းလေးမေးခွန်းလေးတော့နည်းနည်းလေးပေါ့နော်နည်းနည်းလေးလည်းမိတ်ဆက်ရင်ကောင်းမလားအတွေ့အကြုံလေးနည်းနည်းလေးနဲ့ပေါ့နော်နည်းနည်းလေးပြန်ကြည့်ကြည့်ပြီးတော့ So Mr. Bin
Yes, please.
So what do you think like some of us like if we introduce ourselves a little bit more and share the experience and you can also share your experience too.
That would be fantastic.
Yes.
I'd love for that.
Yes. So ဆရာစမတို့ဒါဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့နည်းနည်းလေးမိတ်ဆက်ပေးပါဦးကိုနာမည်ကပါလဲနာမည်ဘယ်လိုခေါ်လဲပြီးရင်လက်ရှိဘာလုပ်နေလဲဆိုတာလေးနဲ့ပေါ့နော်အဲ့အားလေးနည်းနည်းမိတ်ဆက်ပေးပါဦးသူကနေစမိတ်ဆက်မယ်မသိဘူးနော် Okay ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်နည်းနည်းလေးနာမည်ခေါ်ကြည့်လိုက်မယ်နော်ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒါဆရာမငိမ့်ငိမ့်ချေးဖြစ်မယ်တယ်နော်ဆရာမငိမ့်ငိမ့်ချေးတစ်ချက်လေးမိတ်ဆက်ပေးပါဦး Okay,
yes, my name is Naing Oo. I'm an engineer and project management, and also I'm studying modeler, research and review. So I want to learn about project management. So I attended this webinar. Thank you.
Okay, so ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်ဆရာမဘယ်မျိုးอ่ะလဲအခုဒီ
Yangon. I live in Yangon. Yes.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ဆရာမအခုကျေးဇူးဒါဆိုတော့အခုနောက်ထပ်ပေါ့နော်ဒါဆရာမနောက်ထပ်2ယောက်လောက်တစ်ချက်လုံးမိတ်ဆက်ပေးကြည့်ပါဦးပြီးရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့နည်းနည်းလေးပြန်ဆက်သွားရအောင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီမှာဆိုရင်ဆရာအောင်ကိုမင်းလားမသိဘူးเนาะကျွန်တော်တစ်ချက်လောက်မိတ်ဆက်ပေးပါဦးလက်ရှိဘာလုပ်နေကြလဲပြီးရင်ဘယ်ရလဲ
Hello, hi. I'm Uncle Main. I'm a second-year student from Yangon Technological University, like studying mechatronics engineering, and I live in Yangon. Right. Yeah, I'm just a student.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Very, very nice to meet you. Okay, ဒါဆိုရင်ပေါ့နော်တယောက်လုံးမိတ်ဆက်ပေးလို့ရမလားမသိဘူးပေါ့နော်တယောက်လောက်ကျွန်တော်အခု CB ဆိုတဲ့ account နဲ့လေကျွန်တော်တစ်ချက်လောက်မိတ်ဆက်ပေးပါဦး Hello ကြားလားမသိဘူးကျွန်တော် CB ဆိုတဲ့ account နဲ့ Okay ဒါဆိုရင်နောက်တယောက်လောက်တော့နည်းနည်းပြောကြည့်မယ်နော်ကျွန်တော်တို့ဆရာထက်မြတ်အောင်ဖြစ်မယ်နော်ကျွန်တော်တစ်ချက်လောက်မိတ်ဆက်ပေးပါဦး
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Naing Oo, or you can call me Alexander Ho. So currently, I'm working as a part-time job. Actually is my own organization. It's called Laboratory of Robotics and Artificial Intelligence, or in short term, it's called LoRa. And also, I'm a final year student attending in the Yangon Technological University. It's kind of like an engineering student, of course. Yeah, it's my totally background. Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for introduction. Do we have any questions so far? Basically, like we just want to know. အခုဆရာစမတို့အခုချိန်ကြည့်အောင်မေးခွန်းလေးဆွေးနွေးချင်တယ်ကိုအတွေ့အကြုံနဲ့ဆွေးနွေးချင်တာမျိုးရှိလားမသိဘူးအခုချိန်ကြည့်ပေါ့ Okay, so Mr. Bain. So basically, this is the benefits of good project management, right? So do you want to share your experience a little bit before we the next session?
Sure. So I've been working in projects for, as I said, about 10 years. I started out as a business analyst, working on a project that deployed a new tool to Nigeria, actually. I did a lot of the research and requirements gathering. After that, I moved on to work in actually Pennsylvania, the United States. I worked on a large variety of projects there, from web projects to document repositories for oil and gas, data projects. Did a lot, spent some time as a solutions architect and a data architect, managing many different projects in regards to IT, different tools, deployments. Then, more recently, I've been working in, for a while I worked in fintech as a Scrum Master. So I have a lot of experience in Agile as well. And more recently, I've been working here doing a large variety of projects. A really cool one that we've been working on for a client is a CRM deployment. We have to customize everything. We have to do the right, make sure it meets their needs, their requirements, and it's actually really quite fun. I love projects because you really get to learn so many different areas and work with so many amazing people.
Thank you so much. So then basically, what do you think? Like, we have just a few people here. So if we invite to introduce each other, and also like we will keep going.
I love it. Okay. I love the interaction. I think Koyan, fantastic idea.
Yeah. So then, okay. So really, Siasmaro general do ono aku ayan le tui e mani aw ba lo so poma phin general tu aku so yin general lu le ne le so le tot le general 10 minute လောက်မိတ်ဆက်လိုက်မယ်မိတ်ဆက်ပြီးရင်ပို့ပြီးတော့များနည်းနည်းထွေးထွေးရှိသွားမလားလို့ပေါ့နော်ဟိုဆိုဒီတိုင်းပဲပြောနေတယ်ဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ကဟိုတနားရီဆိုရင်လည်းပေါ့နည်းနည်းလေးဟိုအပြန်အလှန်လေးဆွေးနွေးချင်တာမျိုးပို့ပြီးတော့ဖြစ်စီကျွန်တော်လေနော်ဆိုတော့ဆရာမအခုကျွန်တော်တို့လေအကောင့်က as ASA နဲ့ကျွန်တော်ဝင်ထားတဲ့ဆရာလက်ဆက်မလာတော့မသိဘူးเนาะကျွန်တော်တစ်ချက်လောက်မိတ်ဆက်ပေးပါဦး by အမေဘယ်လိုခေါ်လဲဘာလုပ်နေလဲပဲမျိုးရလဲ
I am Chodia. Yes, I'm from Lime Township. Now I working at one of the Nawan Fiverr company, which a marketing officer. Yes, nice to meet you all. Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for your introduction. And another one, and also the account name is CB. CB account နဲ့ဆရာလားဆရာမလားမသိဘူးတစ်ချက်လောက်မိတ်ဆက်ပေးပါဦးအမည်ရဲ့ဘာလို့မလဲပဲမျိုးရလဲပေါ့နော် CB နာမည်နဲ့ဝင်ထားတာ Hello ဆရာစမောက်ကြားလားဟုတ်ပြီဒါဆိုရင်ဒီ Glassy Tab A 2019ဆိုပြီးတော့လေဆရာလားဆရာမလားမသိဘူးတစ်ချက်လောက်မိတ်ဆက်ပေးပါဦး Glassy Tab A 2019 Hello ဆရာစမောက်ကြားလားHello ဟုတ်ပြီเนาะဒါဆိုရင်ကျွန်တော်တို့ Jamgo W ဆိုရအကောင့်နဲ့ဝင်ထားတဲ့ ဆက်စမမိတ်ဆက်ပေးပါဦး Jamgo W ကျွန်တော်တို့เนาะကိုလောကင်မရာပိတ်အတောင်ပိတ်ဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့ Hello ဆက်စမကြားလားအတန်လေးပါနေတယ်ကြားပါတယ်ဟုတ်ကဲ့အကြောင်းလေးနည်းနည်းပြန်ပေးပါအားလုံးအတန်ပိတ်ဗီဒီယိုပိတ်ဆိုလေကျွန်တော်ဘာဆက်လို့မှမသိဘူး
Hello, I'm Yelen. May I introduce myself?
Please.
Yeah, I'm Yelen. I work for Dana Saya Construction and OIC Education Service. I'm very interested for this project management because I'm also project manager. Now I'm in South Clapper Township and nice to see you all.
Very nice to see you. Yeah. ကျေးဇူးများတင်ပါတယ်ပေါ့နော်နောက်ထပ်ကျွန်တော်တို့မိတ်ဆက်ပေးပါဦးကျွန်တော်တို့ဒီမှာတော့ပုံမှန်ပေါ့နော်ကျွန်တော်တို့တော်မျိုးတွေလည်းတွေ့ရတယ်ပေါ့နော်ဆိုတော့အခုနောက်ထပ်ကျွန်တော်ဆရာစမိုင်းလည်းတွေ့ရ So hi everyone, could you please introduce yourself? Like you know, you can turn on your mic and your camera as well. So we will be very happy to listen who you are and where you are from.
Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Situedo. I attend a community university and I attend a second year. Nice to meet you all. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for your
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
And who will be the next volunteer to introduce ourselves? Who will be?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, my
I have
friend.
been before Mobius Hospitality. The Doing Institute. I have been joined several webinars. I'm very happy to join with the Doing Institute because of where we got very most valuable knowledges and the useful tools from the Doing Institutes. Thank you heartfully. I'm appreciate and I'm proud of the Doing Institutes because of their work in the masters and specialist speakers.
Thank you.
My name is Tamang. My name is Tamang. I'm from C2 Arakan State. I'm working as a case management officer in INGO.
Thank you so much, Kuchamo. So very good to see you again from Situi Rakai. And who will be the next one to introduce ourselves? Please, because I don't really want to take so much time.
I can quickly introduce myself. My name is Anders. I'm a consultant and also an SME business owner in Yangon, and sometimes I work together with Ben in Mobius.
Thank you
I'm
so
in
much.
Yangon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anders, for joining us. So who gonna be the next one? Who will be the next one? So there are so many people. I noticed that.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello. Okay, xin chào bạn là chị. Hello. Okay, I'm a Wilwana. I am a final year law student at Dago University and also an MBA student. And I live in Yangon. Project management subject is my favorite subject, so I want to join this program. Yes, I just meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your introduction. So then we will invite next 3 people to introduce ourselves. So then who will be the next volunteer?
Hello?
Yes, please.
Yeah, this is Manuel Alejandro. I'm here to support Benjamin and hopefully to learn a little bit more about project management. I have about 6 years of experience in business development and 3 years here in Myanmar.
Thank you so much. So where you are from?
Colombia.
Colombia. Okay, very good to see you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. So who's
really
gonna
appreciate it, man.
Nice to meet you.
Who's gonna be the last one to introduce ourselves? Who will be the last one?
Koyan, have you introduced yourself? Maybe you should be the last one.
Okay. Okay. So I think. So my name is Naing Oo. I am the basically MD of the Footprints company. That under that company we have 3 different businesses. I think the host already introduced me. So then basically I've been working for the consulting and also executive learning. That's at the DOR Institute. And the DOR technology, which is basically the system and software development. Another one is the DOR communication, which is translation and interpretation. These 3 businesses I've been working on. So today, this is, I would like to introduce myself. Okay, so then let's go forward. Okay, let's go forward. So then, because I would like to introduce ourselves, because normally when we conduct the seminars or webinar, or people's like freak out and basically, you know, we need ice breaking, right? So
yes, definitely.
So that we have to interact. So I don't want to make that mistake again. So let's see how we interact today.
I think it's great. Actually, and we're not going to do this, but if anyone knows the icebreaker, 2 truths and a lie, that's one of my favorite ones for getting people to speak. And if I teach it to Koyan, do you know it?
Maybe this time on we.
Yeah, exactly. If I teach it to Koyan, I'm sure he'll make us all do it next time.
Yeah.
All right. I think that was really fantastic. what Koyan did is a great example of good project management, getting the right engagement from the people. If you consider everyone here as being part of the project, that's really good. And so I hope everyone feels a little more encouraged to ask whatever questions they would like. All right, and I love questions, love comments. If you want to share your experience, just let us know as well. We'll be more than happy to listen to your talk. You guys will get tired of just listening to me talk nonstop, I'm sure. So with that in mind, I'm going to get into the first of the three main mistakes that I've seen in projects. And the first one's a biggie. Putting an inexperienced project manager without a mentor in charge of a project. It's really dangerous. A lot of people think, oh, you know, it's easy. Project management's easy. They'll just be there. They know this stuff. They'll be fine. They're smart, all these things. Project management requires a lot of skill that you get from experience. And an experienced project manager may have heard different things. They may be nervous. It's really hard. So I'm going to walk you through some of the habits an inexperienced project manager will have versus some of them that a good project manager will have. So a good project manager knows that they need to collaborate. A good project manager will actually reach out to their team members. In fact, I remember this one time. I reached out to one of my team members doing a deployment, and I said, you know, one of the stakeholders needs this done in a week. And I came to them, not just to say, do it. I said, here's some ideas I have. Now, their domain may not be my expertise. And in this case, it wasn't. And they responded with, well, these might work, but maybe I can do this. What I had done was I got their mind thinking about ways to improve the deployment, something that they wouldn't have done on their own. But now that we're collaborating, we were actually able to deliver what the stakeholder needed. It was a really great experience. The power of collaboration is immeasurable. But an inexperienced project manager, what they'll do is they'll dictate and they'll inspire fear. They'll say, they'll say, you must do this my way. I don't care what you think, do it my way or else. And that or else is followed by, or else I will talk to your manager, I will talk to your boss, and we'll see about repercussions. A scared employee, someone who's scared for their job, they're not going to do good work. They're spending half of their brain capacity thinking, what if I lose this job? And the other half is looking for a new job. So inspiring fear is something that is a very old mindset. You know, 50 years ago, it was good that the manager was the strong one who inspired fear. That actually does not produce good results. And an inexperienced project manager has seen it on TV and they think that's what they need to do. I cannot advise enough against that. Well, a good project manager will take the time to coach. You know, the number of times I've actually sat down with my team and I said, this is what I want us to do. This is how it should go. And this is the reason why. Goes back into the collaboration. There have been many, and a team member will say, well, wait, what if we do this? Because I invite that mindset, I invite that activity. And even when I'm coaching, even when I'm explaining things, we have the collaboration going. An inexperienced project manager doesn't take the time to explain things. Further, they make unrealistic commitments. I remember watching an inexperienced project manager say to a customer, I'll have this done on Friday, knowing full well that there was no way with, it was already Thursday. There was just no way they were going to get it done on Friday. And even when they did deliver it, the team had to work the weekend and it was delivered on Sunday. Even though it was delivered before Monday, which the inexperienced project manager told me it's no problem, we just need to have it before Monday. They had made a commitment to their stakeholder and said this will be delivered on Friday. I considered that personally to be a failure. And so did the stakeholder. They were frustrated. They had expected it Friday, even though they didn't work the weekend. It was very dangerous. A good project manager takes the time to communicate clearly. If you'll let me indulge another story. I remember back when I was an intern, very long time ago, let's say, I wrote this one email. Now, I had taken 5 minutes to write it. It was like 5 paragraphs long. I thought, okay, this will explain everything. And I sent it to a coworker. And about 10 minutes later, they came to me and they said, Ben, I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're trying to say in this email. I can't understand it. That's where I came from initially. But over time, I've learned the value and the skills of communicating clearly. And I know some of you are thinking it's difficult and it's complex, but it takes the experience and you will all learn it as well. Now these days, some of the techniques that I use, I'll write something, I'll spend 10 minutes crafting it very carefully, and then I'll step away for 10, 20 minutes. I'll come back to it and I'll read it again. Does it still make sense to me? And most of the time I'll edit it because it doesn't make perfect sense. For really important emails, I even bring in a second person. Say, hey, can you read this? Does this make sense? And while they may have a different perspective, it's always very valuable to do things like that. So I encourage you, don't be embarrassed, don't be shy. Communicating clearly is very important for a good project manager. An inexperienced project manager will only occasionally check in. Oh, I knew the project was going well. I told them what to do because I dictated. It'll be fine. I'll check on this next week. No worries. The experienced project manager knows, hey, I've asked them to do this. It's due Wednesday at 2 p.m. Let me double check the morning on Wednesday to make sure they're on track. Let me monitor the project closely. Without micromanaging, that's something really critical. You want to monitor closely, have regular check-ins, but you do not want to micromanage. You don't want to control every piece of the project because then your team members won't collaborate. They won't want to work with you. They won't even think about things. They'll just go on autopilot. I hope you're starting to see how a lot of these things work together like a beautiful symphony. So further, an inexperienced project manager will play the blame game. They'll play the blame game. They'll say to the stakeholders, Bob over there, I told him what to do, but he didn't do it. It's not my fault. Blame Bob for everything. They'll also take credit for everything. When Bob succeeds, they'll say, look, I told him what to do. Aren't I great? These are really awful practices. And I cannot be more ashamed of anyone who ever does this. You get more from sharing. When an issue happens, don't hide it, be transparent, but also don't throw your team member under the bus. Even if you don't think they'll know about it, they will find out. People's demeanor and attitude change when you do things like that. And share credit. If Bob did a great job, tell all the stakeholders how great Bob is doing. You'll often find that a rising tide raises all sails. I know it's a really great mentality. I've experienced it myself. When the team feels empowered, when they feel that they're getting the credit that they deserve and they want, and they're being protected for every tiny mistake, they work harder, they work better. The team dynamic changes. And that's that human relations pieces right there. Finally, a good project manager knows how to watch for scope creep. They know that if something changes, then the entire project may be affected. In case anyone's wondering what scope creep is, that's actually where something new is added to the project and in the middle of the project, because it's creeping along. So a good project manager watches for it. In traditional project management, there's a lovely little triangle that some of you may have seen where you have scope, time, cost. When you change one of these, at least one of the others must change. So that needs to be fully monitored very closely. Reject as much scope changes as you can. If they're really important, then other things need to be monitored and edited. Now, of course, this changes if you're working agile projects, which are a lot of fun in themselves, but we're focused on more traditional project management right now. Next, this is probably the biggest question I get from people who are trying to figure out project management. How do I manage prioritization? How do I manage time? Really important things. So actually, before I go on, I'd like to very quickly invite anyone to ask any questions about this particular slide, or even share any stories they have of either good project management or inexperienced project management.
ဆရာစမတို့ပေါ့နော်အခုကျွန်တော်တို့အားလုံးနားထောင်ကြတဲ့အချိန်မှာအခုကောဒီကိုယ်စိတ်ထဲမှာပေါ့နော်မေးချင်တဲ့မေးခွန်းများရှိသလားမသိဘူးပေါ့နော် Hi everyone, like do you have any other like your own experiences or your own perception on this matter? So that, for example, like at some point you said these points, and also I have this different hypothesis, you can say. So, may ကျင်တာများရှိသေးလားဒီတပိုင်းအတွက်ကိုလေအခုဒီပေါ့နော်ဒီမှာဆွေးဝင်ရောက်ဆွေးနွေးလို့လည်းရတယ်ဒီမှာတစ်ခါလည်းမေးခွန်းတွေလည်းမေးလို့ရပါတယ်အားလုံးကြောက်ကြလားမသိဘူးเนาะကျွန်တော်တိတ်ဆိတ်နေတာဆိုတော့တိတ်ဆိတ်ငြိမ်သက်မှုပေါင်းတော်တော်ဖူတွေစောင်းကုန်ပြီကျွန်တော်
ကြားပါတယ်ပြီးတော့လေးလာဆိုလေအားကြောင့်အသိတော်မရှိသေးဘူးဟုတ် project ပိုင်းကတိတ်မလုပ်ဖြစ်သေးတော့လေဟုတ်ကဲ့ခင်ဗျာဟုတ်ကဲ့ကျွန်တော်အားလုံးကတိတ်ဆိတ်နေတော့လေကျွန်တော်နည်းနည်းတော့အားတော့အားငယ်လာစလာပြီเนาะဆိုတော့
actively listening
ဟုတ်ကဲ့ဟိုမေးပေးပါเนาะကျွန်တော်မေးခွန်းတွေပါမေးဆက်ရှင်လည်းမေးပေးပါလောလောဆယ်တော့မရှိသေးဘူးပေါ့เนาะ
Okay.
Is there anyone who have questions for that session? Anyone? Okay, so we will keep going.
Okay.
Yes.
Very exciting. All right, to keep going, as I was saying, one of the biggest questions I get is prioritization. A project manager in training will often ask, how do I do time management? How do I do prioritization management? These are really complicated things. Even for an experienced project manager, prioritization is tough. So don't feel like anyone can come in and just figure it out. When you're trying to work with prioritization, you need to understand a lot of different facts of the project itself. You need to understand the scope and the priorities of the project. You understand the requirements. You need to have done discovery. These will tell you what the most important things are, what you need to finish first. Many times when you put together those requirements, you'll have an understanding of this item has to be done before this item can be done. And if the second item is absolutely critical, then you need to think about doing the first item early on. You also need to understand your resources. If you have an Android developer, let's say, or a builder, but you have a designer, well, understanding how much of each person's time that you have is very important, because it tells you, okay, if I need to categorize things by what each person can do, and I understand in each category what is the most important thing for them to finish. How does it interact with something in the other category? A lot of times you have a designer that needs to finish their work before the developer can finish theirs. So you need to match those things up. Timeline and the relative time value, very important. If you have an activity that will take you, let's say 2 hours, but it's very low value, it's not really the best use of your time. Work on the activity that will take 3 days. It's a great rush to finish something. It's a great feeling. Yes, it's done. But that doesn't mean you're prioritizing right. Just because you finished a lot of small things doesn't mean that the project is moving well. Finally, this is the hardest one to handle emotionally, the idea of sunk costs. I'll give you an example for this one. Actually, currently in my company, we have this one small project, a marketing thing that we were trying to do. We finished 75% of it, and it seemed important at the time. And at the time, it was prioritized correctly. But once we finished 75%, we realized that we had other activities that were actually more important coming up. So we had to put that on the back burner. And for over 2 months now, that item has been sitting there at 75% complete, because we just have so many other more important things to work on. As much as I would love for us to finish that, it will get done when the time is right. My team members on the call, they'll know exactly which activity I'm talking about. I really wish it can be completed tomorrow, but we've got to wait for the right time. All right. Does anyone have any questions on prioritization before we move on to the next issue?
I think we can move on to the next issues, and after that we can have a Q&A session.
Perfect. All right. This one will actually take the least amount of time to explain. Not having the right tools. It's an issue I've seen multiple times where a project manager will try and force their particular tool set on their team without explaining why, without thinking about what the project needs. It doesn't work well. For example, for those of you familiar with Jira, a tool that I love, I consider myself an expert in it. I would love to use it, but it's mostly focused on agile sprint-based projects. Unfortunately, it's not useful in day-to-day activities. It's not useful in waterfall. It's not useful for very small, simple projects. So I make sure that I don't use it for everything. When you think about what tool that you want to have, what tool you want your team to use, you need to take into account who your project team is. Is your project team someone who's very tech heavy? Will they understand something complicated? Or do some of the team members need very simple tools? You also have to take into account the management cost. You have to think about how much time you're going to spend managing this particular tool. Is it a value add? When you spend an hour administrating and teaching a tool, you better get at least an hour of value back. Also, normal cost as well. Most of these tools you can see on the left, they have a free version, but sometimes you need the advanced features that come with the paid versions. So you need to think about, how do you manage that time? How do you manage that cost? Project methodology, the type of agile waterfall operations you need to think about. Make sure you play to your strengths, and think about the project itself. So most the tools to the left are not all of the project management tools out there. There are hundreds of them out there. The best advice I'll give you on that is, don't worry about finding the perfect one. Find the right one. And honestly, you're probably going to find 100 of them that are right. You're going to end up in analysis paralysis if you start thinking about, well, this one is good for this, but this one's slightly better in that case. But maybe there's another third tool out there that I could look into. Just think about what works for you on that day. Think about what's good enough and go with that. A lot of times there's very little additional value in finding that quote unquote perfect tool. Okay. Other than questions on this, I would really like to open up the floor for any issues, project management issues, concerns that you guys have seen. I know we've received a couple already, but if anyone on the call has anything they'd love for me to talk about, or even just share themselves, let me know.
Yes, now so far we got some question as well. So let me read. Miss Andrea. Okay, let me start with the question from the Miss Andrea. I started working project management last year in my SMEs, and my bigger challenge was dealing with people in my team who were not performing well or meeting deadline. So how do you recommend talking to them? I don't like conflict and would be very friendly, but it didn't yield good results. But I don't want to be too strict or shout at people either. So what do you recommend?
That is a really tough situation, and a very common one. The project manager a lot of times needs to remember that they're management. They are senior management. And as much as you want to be friendly with your team, you're not their friends. Not necessarily. It's a harsh truth and a very tough pill to swallow. And I'm not saying be mean with them or anything, but you definitely need to remember that, because if you're too scared of your team, if you're too nervous about upsetting them and making them not your friends, then you're going to have trouble talking to them about the harsh truths. You should never shout. That adds no value. You should never scare your team off. You should never, again, play the blame game. These are all very important things to think about. So what you should do, the things you should focus on, sit down with your team member privately. Say, listen, I have seen that you are not delivering what you need to deliver. Now, I've done this before. It's a tough discussion to have. You're not doing a great job. Here's my advice for how you can improve. Always come into these sort of meetings with advice. All right, even if it's not the perfect advice, even if it's not what will work in the end, you come to them and you say, listen, this is something you can do. You're not good at prioritization, so this tool will help you prioritize. You're not good at time management. You're not good. Should give you different sets of activities. What do you think about this? You have that conversation with them privately. The private part is important. Don't embarrass your team member. And then you try and make some commitments with them. In the end, they'll say, okay, well, I don't want to do that, but I can do this part. Then, okay, great. I'm going to monitor you for the next month. During that time, I want to see this level of improvement. If you can keep things specific and measurable, then that is always better. They know that they have a very specific goal to achieve. And at the end of that month, you then need to come back to them and be honest, give them honest feedback. This is how you're doing. Of course, you should also have check-ins during the month. Don't just show up at their door a month later and say, you're not doing a great job, you haven't improved. Because maybe they think they're improving. Have weekly check-ins.
Yes, thank you so much for your answer as well. So then basically, I also have some like a question for you as well, because I've been listening to your sharing. So what I would like to ask is basically the topic is the mistake. So you know, you've been passing through and totally got it. So that what kind of mistake did you make so far when you started to manage at the very beginning? And also kind of like what kind of mistake now? Maybe that might be different type of mistakes or different kind of mistake. Now sometimes you say do that. So in the past and present.
So one of the really big mistakes I made as an inexperienced project manager was I would not get all the feedback that I needed.
We can stop sharing the screen.
Oh, that makes sense. So one of the biggest mistakes I've made is I would not get the feedback that I needed. When you're about to do a really big presentation to a set of stakeholders, you know, I've done presentations to all of senior management in my division. What's really important is actually to take the time and meet with each of them for 15, 20, 30 minutes if you can, and walk through the presentation, get their feedback before. If you don't do that, like I didn't, you get blindsided. You get hit from the left. Well, was that the left? I think it's mirrored. You get hit from the left or the right, and it can really mess up your entire project. It can mess up your presentation, your flow. It's really tough. So by having that conversation before, I learned that I can gather their feedback earlier and I can actually incorporate it. I can actually get their approval prior to meeting with them. We used to do what was called phase gates. And these are when you're about to move into a new big phase of the project. Is traditional waterfall project management. You would have a phase gate where you talk to all of the senior management. And now, since I've learned my lesson, I meet with all of them. And I know before the meeting that all of them will give an approval to move to the next phase. It also helps to have regular communication with them, even before you move to the phase gate. Give them regular updates, send them emails, things like that. A lot of my mistakes in the past have been around communication, and it is one of the hardest things to learn.
So what would be the mistakes like you wish that you trying to avoid in the future? Something that you've been now struggling, or something that you just did recently and you wish not to do that again?
Recently, oof. So when you have, so sometimes I'm managing a lot of projects all at once. And some of the mistakes I've made even recently have to do with monitoring the project. When you're managing 5 different projects, it is really difficult to remember to check in regularly, to remember to monitor the health of the project. And even someone with years of experience like me, it's tough, and mistakes are made. You have to remember each team member is working on a project. They may just be working on that one project. And if you don't check in with them, sometimes they'll go off and start working on other things, like what's happened to me at Cocotech before, until I started to make sure that I had those regular check-ins. Make sure that as much as I trust my team, and let your team know you trust them, it's trust but verify, trust and monitor. So that's
thank you so much for your listeners. So အခု Sesma တို့လေเนาะအခုဒီနေ့ကိုလာပြီးတော့တက်ရောက်တဲ့သူတွေအားလုံးပေါ့เนาะအခုကျွန်တော်တို့နောက်ဆုံးအချိန်လေးလည်းရောက်လာပါပြီအခု4 minute ကြံသေးရပါเนาะ4 minute ကြံသေးတယ်ဆိုတော့နောက်ဆုံးမှာကျွန်တော်တို့ဆွေးနွေးချင်တဲ့ဟာပေါ့เนาะဒီ Facebook live ကြည့်နေတဲ့ Sesma တွေရောပြင် Zoom မှာတက်ရောက်နေတဲ့ Sesma တွေရောပေါ့လေကိုသိချင်တာလေးလည်းကျေးဇူးပြုပြီးတော့ပေါ့เนาะဒီမှာဝင်ဆွေးနွေးလို့လည်းရပါတယ်ပေါ့เนาะခုနကလိုပြင်ဒါမေးမြန်းလို့လည်းရပါတယ်ဆိုတော့ဘယ်သူတွေများကျေးဇူးပြုပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်မေးချင်ကြတယ်လဲဆွေးနွေးပေးလို့လည်းရပါတယ်เนาะ
Hello. 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 Hello.
Hello. Yes.
I would like to know, manager and the co-workers, how to important, which is the most important in their relations?
It's 4 o'clock.
It is 4 o'clock. I want to make sure I understand this question. So when you say, are you asking how best to improve relationships between the team members and between the manager?
Team member and between team member and the manager.
So there are a few techniques. Alcohol helps.
No, I dislike.
Fair enough. But what I always recommend, the alcohol thing was a joke. You don't have to have alcohol to work with your team. What I always recommend is make sure you have a kickoff. And that's the first thing, because a project has a unique set of team members, usually. Sometimes you have worked together, sometimes you haven't. So having that nice little kickoff where you introduce the project, but you also get to know each other a little bit at work. And usually it's really good to have food along with this kickoff. And then celebrate every big win. If you've delivered something, if you have those phase gates, let's say, what we would always do is we would always have a celebration to celebrate every phase gate. Make sure the team members know that they're appreciated and respected. This is important. and also have regular team meetings.
Yeah, in my experience, I was sometimes upset on my executive directors because of he wasn't no contact with us. I have been worked over 2 years, nearly 2 years, but even though he didn't discuss with us, here just working the coordinator and the other one. We are field worker. We are we are doing well, but we didn't meet the or shared with the PM and the executive director our feeling and our situations. At the time, we're very guilty felt. I guilty felt. At the time, we don't want to work with him, and because of he's just working the upper level position people, so we didn't meet the anytime he didn't share their indicator and the project management planning and the activity planning. Just inform when they need any activity a few minutes before they inform us. At the time, we're very upset at working with them. So, in my experience.
Thank you so much for your suggestion as well, so Mr. Gujo and Mr. Bing. And also, we will close this as we are already over time. So we still have 2 more questions for Mr. Bing. So also, Gujo Mao, ကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်ပါတယ်ခင်ဗျာပေါ့နော်အခုလိုမေးမြန်းပေးတာဆိုတော့ကျွန်တော်နောက်ထပ်မေးခွန်းလေးတစ်ခုကျွန်တော်ဆက်သွားလိုက်ပါနော် So the first question is basically for the questions of Gu Ao Jome. Gu Ao Jome asks more about micromanaging. Another question is for Liu Wan. Actually, the Liu Wan also is it Liu Wan or Liu Wan? Liu Wan also asked what do you think for what do you look for during monitoring check-in, and what kind of feedback you usually give? This is the second question for you.
Ooh, how much time do I have to answer these?
Maximum 5 minutes.
All right. Micromanaging, I think, is very easy to answer. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by knowing more about micromanaging, but in case you're wondering about a definition, micro meaning small, managing. Now, micromanaging is super dangerous for multiple reasons. First, when you start to get into the tiny details of how your team member is going to do their activity, well, they may be offended. They may reject what you're trying to say because they're offended. They may do it exactly as you say, but because you told them to do it in a way that isn't actually perfect because it's not your domain expertise, it's not as good as it would be if they did it on their own. There's a concept called empiricism, which basically translates to trusting the experts. Trust the people who know what they're doing to do their work. You can tell them, I need you to deliver this code by the end of the week, but don't tell them how to code. They know how to do it. And oftentimes, they're better at it than you. And even if you are better at it than them, that may not be how they work. People don't always work the same way. Their minds work differently. So what works perfectly for you does not work perfectly for everyone else. Okay. As far as monitoring, I'm not out of time, am I?
Yes, 2 more or 3 more minutes.
Okay. So as far as monitoring, what do I look for during monitoring and check-ins? That depends on the project. If I was doing, so what we do at my company is every morning we will actually say, this is what we're going to work on today. And then we will actually check in and we try and compare what was done to what was committed to. So when you do monitoring for a project though, you're also going to want to have a timeline, a very clear timeline, understand what deliverables need to be delivered and when, and you need to know, well, how well you're meeting that particular timeline. So when you're checking in, you're checking on work completed. So that will tell you where you are on your timeline, because it often includes things like checklists, to-do lists, and other activities. And if you're over by 2 days, then you need to know that you're delayed. What kind of feedback do I usually give? It really depends. Like I said, I prefer collaboration. So if they're just slightly behind and they're usually good workers, I won't say anything. I just let them know, hey, just to let you know, this was due yesterday. Will you have it done by today? But if there's a pattern, then you need to work with them to find out how they can improve that particular area, whatever it is. Like I said earlier to a previous question, never yell. Never make your team feel embarrassed or make them feel bad, because I promise you the result is not going to be them working harder. It's going to be fear, and it's going to be them working without thinking. I could definitely give more and talk more, as I'm sure you can see, but I believe we're more or less out of time. Boyan, is that correct?
Yes, thank you so much. We are actually 8 minutes over, 8 minutes to. Thank you so much, everyone, and also Mr. Bain for sharing your thoughts and your experience here. And I really appreciate it for your time, and as well as the participant who participated here. And also, if you still have the questions, no worry, like you can stay contact the DOR Institutes, or also you can also directly contact Moviet Facebook page as well. So we still have the other webinar, and next time gonna be the other Andrew from the Moviet as well. So we will have a very interesting topic.
I'm excited for that one.
Yes. So that will be very, very interesting, because like a strategy level, we will also try to discuss that as well. And for organizations, we will have a more and more interesting events very upcoming. So therefore, thank you so much, everyone. And also, if you join the next events, you don't really have to register again. We already have your information. Therefore, if you wish to join any webinar that conducted by the DOR Institute, you don't have to register again. So what you need to do is just contact the DOR Institute or send a message, your name. Then they will look for your name, and if we have the same name, they will contact you again, whether you have or which person you are. So then, if you are interested for the next webinar, then just send a message. Of course, actually, you will be emailed because you are already in the list for this webinar series. So this webinar series, then you will be emailed for the next webinar. So please, we also would like to request, if there are some people out there like who really, or if you think like they would be interested, then you can also invite them. So I really appreciate it, and highly appreciate it for your time and participation as well, everyone. Thank you so much for your time.
Koyan, if I can, I can quickly give
Yes, Mr. Please.
I'm quickly going to plug my company, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Mobius Consulting. We're really excited. If you are an SME, or if you have, if you know SMEs, let them know who we are. Reach out to us. We do 1 hour free consultation. We're happy to help you in any way we can. As you can see, we're very experienced, and we're very excited to work with anyone who reaches out. Just let us know what you like. And additionally, as Koyan said, even if you're not an SME, even if you're a student, let's say, please feel free to reach out to me personally or reach out to Mobius Consulting directly with any questions. We are more than happy to help if you need anything. Just let us know. And thank you so much, Koyan. Really, really appreciate giving me this form. And we're excited to do more with the Door Institute.
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, ခုနလေးဆရာမတို့ခုနပြောစရာလေးမရှိဘူး
Yeah. Tata.
ဟုတ်ကဲ့အားလုံးနှုတ်ဆက်ပါတယ်
ဟုတ်တက်ရောက်ဆွေးနွေးပြီး
Bye bye.
ဆရာရန်နိုင်ဦးနဲ့ Mr. Benjamin ဖြင့်ကျေးဇူးအများကြီးတင်ပါတယ်ရှင်တက်ရောက်ဆွေးနွေးကြတဲ့ဆရာဆရာမများအားလုံးကိုလည်းကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်နောက်တော့မှပြုလုပ်မဲ့ event တွေမှာလည်းအားလုံးပြန်လည်ဆုံတွေ့ချင်ပါတယ်ရှင်ကျေးဇူးတင်ပါတယ်မင်္ဂလာညနေခင်းလေးဖြစ်ပါစေရှင် Thanks Ben Thank
Tata.
you See you Bye bye
See you.